everyone. We have a game with the white pieces against Ramon, 23. He's rated 1759. Pretty nice. And we open up with the bishop's opening, controlling the d5 square, and placing a pawn on e4, occupying that square. Ramon is stumped by our bishop move. I mean, it is, not so common because everyone just brings their knight out. So bringing your bishop out first is kind of unexpected. So, I mean, I don't think it's this unexpected, but it's just a developing move. So he can make any move and he's fine, but he's taking forever, so it's weird. He's going back to his Chessable course so he can see what the move was. Ah, there it is. He found it. So he develops a knight, and we develop our knight, and we're both controlling the same central squares. Okay, what does the Chessable course say next? You gotta click the knight c3 line, friend, so it pops up. Because a 1759 does not take this long for moves 2 and 3. What? Okay, so he finally copies me. And we go d3. And now he's in turbo mode. He goes d6. And now we're ready to play f4, as you've seen many times on the speedrun. Threatening. Okay, so he takes. And very few of our opponents take, which they should, so we don't play f5. But he does take. We recapture, of course. And now he castles. So now it's just a normal position. We bring out our knight. He brings out his knight, and all of the minor pieces for us are developed. And we can castle one way or another. Well, we can't castle short because of this bishop currently, so not one way or another. We're going to lift our queen and potentially castle queenside. I don't see anything too wrong with that just yet. Okay, so a5 maybe trying to discourage us from going that way. Giving his bishop a little hole to go back to. That's fine. Not worried about that. We could, try to retake the diagonal, but I'm actually going to pin his knight instead because his bishop can't go backwards in here. So I'm going to try to utilize this pin to my advantage instead of neutralizing his bishop. I'm not castling just yet. Maybe when he puts a rook here, or well, not even then, but the thing is, even though my king's here, he can't break with f5 because his knight's in the way, and he can't break with d5 because I'm controlling it with my pieces too many times. And if I put the knight there, that won't even be possible to push, so he can't actually attack my king. He has this bishop looking here, but that's the best it's ever going to do. And so he hits our bishop immediately. If we retreat, I mean, he's probably going to try to break the pin. Let's go for that. If he does that, he'll weaken his king side. So let's provoke it. He does not do that. He jumps his knight into the center. This hits our bishop and our king's knight. Okay. If we take that knight, he has to recapture with the pawn. I can't draw an arrow. There we go. And he gets to also play c6, which is what he's probably going for. I could jump my knight in here now while I have the chance. And whichever piece he takes, well, if he takes the bishop, I can throw this in with check. He has to take this way. Then I take this way. My e-pawn's a little weak and isolated, but his kingside structure is all messed up. and I'll just castle long and ditch my e-pawn and sack it. So I think I'm just going to go for that line. I'm going to go for the aggressive option, double hitting the knight, which can't be defended except by retreating this forward knight. But then that would relieve the pressure that it has on my position, so I wouldn't mind that. Also, I have a move like maybe queen f4, applying even more pressure to the knight. Rook f1, applying more pressure to the knight. Interesting. So maybe at some point he should break the pin and weaken his king. I don't know. I already don't really like it for black. He didn't do anything wrong though, so he's fine, probably. He gained some space, but a5 isn't a common move in lots of openings. He brought his pieces out, the bishop's open, he's castled, nothing too crazy. Solid moves, but I still like white. And now he's in the think tank because he doesn't want to play g5, but he feels like he probably has to. If it's my turn and let's say I take and he takes with the pawn, queen takes h6, it looks really bad for him. So let's say it was my turn. Would I take with the knight or the bishop? If I take with the bishop and he takes this way, and then I take, maybe that's stronger. Oh wait, what am I saying? Hold on. This. The bishop and queen coordinate on f6. If I take this, the queen and knight coordinate on f6. They both look like checkmating patterns either way, so I guess moving the knight would unlock the bishop and also avoid c6 tempos. Now he's really kind of burning time, so that's probably not so good for him because the game is kind of just started, but he's feeling the pressure, and it's all because he has this active bishop that can't go to e7 anymore. But he does have options, so it's not like he's lost. Okay. So what's he gonna do? Let's say he brings his knight back. Okay, he just attacks the knight. But this is like the worst of the worst because he doesn't take my bishop. He just lets me do the move I wanted to make anyway, which was take this. And then take this, right? What's wrong with queen takes pawn? Knight in here, hitting the queen. But I mean, that can't be a good move. Then just queen f4. So let's take this, and if he takes our bishop, maybe we just ignore it. Go bishop f6, and how does he stop mate? Right, so we'll do that. And is 1759, walks right into it. And the game is over. So he spent all this time, so many minutes, only to come up with c6, which made no sense whatsoever because clearly my whole plan was to take. So c6 doesn't do anything but help me do that. It's like, all right, you want to go this way? He's like, you know, those traffic guys, they're like, okay, come along this way. It's like he helped me. He shepherded me to where I wanted to go. And now the game is, it's checkmate. So, I mean, he could sack his queen, but after takes, I'm going to come in with the knight. I'll checkmate him one way or another, probably. I mean, he's going to resign. There's no way he's going to make a move, right? Because this is just so obvious that you know you have no choice but to take the bishop. And then, you know, who wants to play after you give up your queen like that? Yeah, there we go. Rematch offer sent. No, thank you. No, thank you, sir. You took 2 minutes to play the first 3 moves. No way. Okay, I have 2 mistakes. Nice. It was only, how many moves was this game? 14. 2 mistakes and 14. I lost a plus 1.4 advantage. Dropped it back down to 0. Okay, let's go through this. Bishop's opening. Center and development. Development center. Center and development. F4. Here we go. This is our move. We're going to play F5. He takes. Force move. He castles. Development center. Most natural move. Development. King safety. It prepares it. And now, when you're back here, you could still castle this way. This pawn isn't going to do anything. And because he started with the a5 pawn, it's not like he can play b5 unless he's going for a sack to just put rook b8. But it doesn't really work well. Especially like sack, a piece goes here, a pawn goes here. I don't know. Also, you're going to be able to castle kingside at some point if you really want it. Maybe you can push the pawn. Maybe you can block this with a bishop or a knight somehow. But it's not urgent to castle because he can't get to our king. And we have good control over this square. d5. So I improved this piece because it no longer... Like, if it's on this square, it's supporting, let's say, a pawn push. But I'm never going to... That's not part of my plan. I don't want to do it. So I improve it and take advantage of the pin. Like kind of a forced obvious move. Okay, so here there's a line that I missed after knight takes knight. I went in and immediately applied pressure to the knight, which looks positionally good for us because it forces the doubling of the pawns. So if I take, he's definitely going to take. So they're saying I missed something. I mean, in that position, you could also do my move. Oh, it's probably my idea, but you take his knight off the board, and the reason you might want to take it off is because A, he's no longer threatening your bishop or your knight, so no pressure, and B, he no longer has the defensive resource, knight back to d7, defending the knight, which might come in handy because when I apply pressure on the pin. So here, and then you can jump your knight in. What about here? We take the knight, he takes with the queen, then we jump our knight in, he goes queen back home. Probably not that, probably the other one. Let's see. If we turn on the engine, he takes, and yeah, and then we jump our knight in, and he no longer has knight back resource. So it's what I wanted to do, only stronger because it removes, like this knight over here for us on f3, has nothing to do with the pin. It's not an attacker for us. But his knight is a defender. So we're taking away a piece of ours that isn't part of it and removing a defender. So that's numerically good for our plan. So that makes sense. But instead, I immediately jumped in. And the only reason this isn't the same evaluation is because he has this crazy tactic. Knight takes pawn. Hanging his queen. But hitting our queen. So he gets a pawn. If we take his queen, he takes our queen. He's up a pawn. If we take his knight, he takes our bishop. But even there, we could take this at the end of that line. So if he takes our pawn, and we take his knight, he's going to take our knight with check. We take back, and then he's going to take our bishop with check. So instead of that, we take the queen. And then he takes our queen. We take his knight. He takes our bishop. Oh, he throws this in because it's check. Well, okay, so he could take either one. Um, let's just say he ruins our structure and then takes the bishop. Don't we? Now we could take this pawn, and this is just even. They're saying. Okay, I mean, whatever. Let's say I buy that's even. So my move is only a blunder because he has this line. If we get rid of the knight first, and then he tries the same exact thing, we take the queen, he takes our queen, but we have this weird additional resource, bishop e7. I would not see any of this. Okay, so bishop e7 here. Hold on, now that I've gone down this rabbit hole, I have to satisfy myself as to what the difference is. Why bishop e7 is a resource here as opposed to before. So if we go here hitting the rook, now we go back down the other line, my line, he takes, we take, he takes, and there we played bishop e7 here. Now we don't have it because he can evacuate this double knight with checks thanks to this extra knight. So let's say he gives me this check and I have to take. Why does this knight... Okay, he can win a pawn, but what does it matter? Okay, let's go back down the other line. So we take, here, I get the queen, he gets the queen, bishop e7, and now, that's why. It's not his knight that matters, it's my knight. It's the fact that my knight's not here on f3, because I took his knight. So it wasn't about his knight, it was about, now black cannot take my f3 knight with check in this line. And that's why you want to take, just to get rid of that piece on that square. That's super complicated for me. Okay, so I don't even mind my mistake in light of this. Although, I would like to be able to calculate this, clearly. I didn't even consider this move though, so I didn't even start calculating because I didn't even see it. That's interesting because this bishop's undefended. Anyway, let's see my second mistake now that we went down that one. So we go in here. He kicks us, which is absurd because we're going to do this anyway. Okay, so now... Okay, so it's the same thing. My next mistake is playing queen takes h6 plus 2.3. But it's a mistake because plus 5 is the same move I didn't play before. Knight takes knight. Now, if I take the knight, and he'll take back, he has to take back this way. And then I take. And let's say he defends this pawn. This is pinned as well. I forgot I even had this bishop. I totally didn't even pay attention to it. I was just looking at these two pieces in the game. And then you lift the rook up. So they're saying this is just mate without that knight. And with this knight, so let's say what I did in the game, I take. Oh yeah, and I calculated. I said, what's wrong with taking the pawn? And I even said, what if he goes knight c4? And then I said, well, that can't be good for him. And it's not good for him. It's still plus 2.3. But after I said, what if he goes knight c4? Why didn't I say to myself, well, why don't I just take the knight first so I don't have to worry about knight g4? That didn't even pop into my head. And the thing about knight takes is he can't take with the f pawn because it's pinned. So he has to take with the other pawn. And after castling, well, queen takes h6 first and then castling, he can't really break down this barrier you have, that you're going to have this weird bind on the king side, and you'll just mate him. So okay, this makes sense. You should take the knight, which removes a defender and counterplay. And once again, this knight that we have on f3, although it looks nice and it's natural on its square and stuff, it's not going to jump forward and participate in the attack. You know, realistically, you would go knight h4, knight f5, but A, your bishop's there, B, he'll just take it with the his bishop. So it's not gonna, we don't need it. We'll just get rid of a nuisance and then proceed. So it's the same idea, kind of. Okay, so we take the pawn and it's completely winning, and then he just blunders checkmate. So not much to say there. So it's a 12-move game, which is short, but we have two mistakes to look into. One was a crazy tactical line that led to equality, and the other one was just remove the defender and then do your attack. That's all. Remove the counterplay. So this is a good game, makes sense, shows you some simple stuff. Good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Goodbye.